A year ago, before we sold it all and moved to Costa Rica from the United States, we did a video in which we detailed 10 reasons why we wanted to move to Costa Rica. Now that we've been here for a full year, we wanted to revisit that video and see if those 10 reasons still ring true. In this video, we're going to find out if we still liked our decision to move to Costa Rica. Hey guys! Before we get into our 10 reasons why we moved to Costa Rica, if you haven't seen the original video, you can see it in link in description or up here.
Alright, reason number one, because we can. As U.S. citizens, we enjoy one of the most powerful passports in the entire world. We have access to over 180 different countries without needing a visa. Moving to Costa Rica was fairly easy for us. We were able to, until we got our permanent residency, we were able to stay here for 90-day stretches on tourist visas.
That's right.
Yep, and we also wanted to take advantage of our passports more than we were doing. And last year we traveled to 5 different countries.
Right. It's also nice because when you work remotely, it gives you the ability to work where you want. Not only was I able to bring my job with me and continue to blog from Costa Rica, but I actually just got a new job where I also can work remotely. The second reason why we wanted to move to Costa Rica was to take a break from the United States politics. While we feel like we did kind of get a break from politics because we're not immersed in it, I feel like we still listen to the news of everything that's happening in the United States pretty often. So it does feel a little different, I will admit that, being able to pay attention to politics and not physically be there, but the reality is we're still affected by what happens in the United States because U.S. politics affect the world.
Number 3 was lifestyle changes. I know a couple of the things we wanted to do is eat better and live healthier. As far as eating better, we were under the impression that when we got to Costa Rica, all the food was going to be organic and we just walk outside and pick fresh fruits and vegetables. And after we got here, we realized that's not necessarily the case. Although fresh fruits and vegetables are available, and every town seems to have at least one farmer's market where you can buy locally grown food, it's not necessarily organic.
But it's available and affordable, which I know in a lot of places in the United States that's not the case. So, yeah, I think we kind of checked that box a little bit, but it just wasn't exactly what we were expecting.
Another thing we wanted to focus on is living a healthier lifestyle. So initially when we moved to Costa Rica, we moved to the coast. We were living in a little town called Uvita. Prior to moving there, I pictured us on the beach every day. I pictured surfing and just sunset yoga. I don't know what you had in mind, but I'm sure it was something similar.
Right. Yeah.
But we only stayed in Uvita for about 3 months and then we moved to the city. So, healthier lifestyle, I'd say our lifestyle is fairly close to what it was in the United States.
Right.
Not that we're living unhealthy in the United States, I just pictured us connecting more with nature. But we still get out there and do things, it's just not in our everyday routine. We save a lot of that for the weekends.
Right. Yeah, we have a pretty good work-life balance too, which is something I don't think that we did a good job of when we were in the States. But now I know that we take once it's time to log out of work and to enjoy family time, that's something that we definitely take more seriously.
Yeah, and to add on to that, my career has totally changed. I went from working in the field 8 to 11 hours a day, and now I work from home.
And we have a son now, so it's nice to be able to spend time with him every day. I think, if anything, that's probably been the biggest impact on why that has changed in regard to our lifestyle. Our fourth reason for wanting to move to Costa Rica was to seek better race relations. One thing that we knew when we first decided to move here was that when we spoke to Black expats, they said they hadn't experienced any racism for several years of living here. I'll be honest, when I heard that, it almost sounded too good to be true. Being a Black person living in the United States, growing up there, I didn't think that it was possible to go a month without racism, let alone several years. But to my delightful surprise, I have yet to experience any racism since I've been in Costa Rica, and it feels awesome. I feel like I walk with an ease that I just didn't have in the United States, not having to worry about how people perceive me, or thinking that I'm doing something wrong because of the color of my skin, or fears that someone is going to touch my hair, or just a number of things that I have experienced in my lifetime in the United States, and I haven't experienced any of that in a year in Costa Rica. So if that was something you were wondering about, it is definitely a fact in Costa Rica.
I feel very safe and comfortable as a family here.
Absolutely.
Number 5 was for the beautiful climate and the beautiful environment. And yeah, that worked out. That was pretty much what we expected, if not even better.
Agreed.
So when we lived on the coast, it was a little warm and humid. And then we moved to the city, Escazú, and the climate is pretty perfect all year round. I'd say mid to high 70s.
Yeah.
And sometimes approaching the low 80s.
Yeah.
But it's pretty great. Of course, you got rainy season, but that's something you get used to, and that usually doesn't come till later in the day.
Mm-hmm. And the other part too are the views. Even in Escazú, where we live in the city, we still have beautiful views as far as being able to see the mountains and seeing great landscapes even from this region.
And valleys too. Like, we're not even up on a mountain and we can still look out our window and see valleys.
Right.
So that's nice. And then Costa Rica has 12 different microclimates and a lot of biodiversity. We've visited volcanoes, rainforests, jungle, secluded waterfalls, hidden rivers, all kinds of beautiful beaches, of course, all kinds of stuff. So, or we try to take advantage of that biodiversity on the weekends. And Costa Rica is the size of West Virginia, so like landmass size, which is a pretty small state in the United States. It's fairly easy to drive to all these different places just for a weekend trip.
Mm-hmm. And I will say, in regards to the active volcanoes, I've been to one, and I loved it. It's probably one of my favorite places in Costa Rica, so definitely keep an open mind.
Yeah.
So the 6th reason why we wanted to move to Costa Rica was to broaden our horizons. Just being able to see the world from a different viewpoint from our own, and just understand how people do things differently. And I feel like out of all the things, that has definitely been one that has proven true. There are so many things that I feel like I've learned, unlearned, and also just realized that the world is so much bigger than the United States.
Number 7, we wanted to challenge ourselves and grow. And this has been a challenge. So getting here wasn't hard. Getting here was the easy part. Setting up our life here and trying to integrate into Costa Rican society and learning their way of doing things has been a challenge. There's been a learning curve, but we're doing it.
Absolutely. And one thing to think about too is not just a language barrier, it's also a culture barrier. So there's some things that we're used to doing. For example, we pay all our bills online and we put it on autopilot. I don't even check to see if my bills were paid. I just see it come on my bank account in the States. Whereas in Costa Rica, we have to physically go into a place to pay our bills, which when we tell a lot of our friends in America that, they are always a little aghast, like, oh, I didn't know that that's something that they do.
So in Costa Rica, you can pay your bills online. It's a challenge before you have your permanent residency.
Right.
It's a whole thing. We're not going to get into it, but yeah, there's effort. There's extra effort for everything we do. Whether it's getting groceries, paying our bills, finding someone to fix something, or
where to buy
scheduling
something
appointments
that we need. Yeah.
Oh.
But one thing we have definitely honed in on is the ability to ask for help. Like, if you don't know where to find something, go to expat groups and say, hey, has anyone found this in Costa Rica, or anyone in this area know where I can find help doing this thing. And that has probably proven to be one of the most valuable resources when it comes to figuring things out. All right, on to reason number 8. Learn a new language. We have been in Costa Rica for a year and we are still not fluent in Spanish. And I think that's because, one, there's a lot of people who speak English here, but also
a lot.
we had a lot happen to us, and over the course of a year, we had a baby who is almost 5 months now. We moved 3 different times, and I mean, there's just a lot that goes into learning the culture. So we try not to beat ourselves up too much about not understanding Spanish yet, but it is something that we are actively working on.
Yeah, we're getting better every day. It's funny because we'll try to go out and practice it in public. Like I said, there's a lot of people who speak English and they're just very fast to speak to us in English.
Yeah.
And I think they want to practice their English just as bad as we want to practice our Spanish. Their English is better than our Spanish, so that English usually ends up being the default. But we're getting better. Duolingo has been huge for us, at least me personally. We recently got a nanny to help us with Luca, and she speaks Spanish, no English, so that's a lesson every day. So yeah, we're getting there slowly. Give us 10 years. Number 9, one of my favorites is make friends. So we've actually had a pretty good experience of making friends here in Costa Rica. It's come easier than I thought it would. Yeah, we've been able to develop some good relationships. And one of my favorite parts about them is that they're very diverse. So we're not only meeting and spending time with people from Costa Rica, but our friends are from Honduras and Colombia, United States, and Canada, all over the place.
Yeah, so that's been really great. And I feel like we've been able to kind of like fast forward into a lot of our friendships as well. We have friends that threw me a baby shower in this year that we've been here. We've had friends over to our house. We've been to other people's houses for different gatherings, and it feels very special, and we feel very lucky to fall into so many great friendships. And finally, our number 10 reason for moving to Costa Rica is to start a new chapter in our life. This has absolutely been a completely new chapter, one that when I think back to where I was 2 years ago, or I would say 3 years ago, I wouldn't have expected myself to live outside of the United States, like ever. And now I think to where we are, it's we've grown so much. Not only have we grown as far as like our family, because we have a son now who lives with us here in Costa Rica, and but we also have learned a lot about ourselves and just different ways that we can improve personally and see ways that we can work to probably improve the world.
Yeah, so it's definitely starting a new chapter. Very action-packed, fast-paced. We accomplished a lot in the past year.
Yeah. Overall, do we think it was a good decision to move to Costa Rica?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think so too. Overall, I think I personally feel a lot happier than where I was a year ago when we decided to move to Costa Rica. I think having a lot of that anxiety just taking away, having a better work-life balance, having just new eyes to see different things in a way. Yeah, it's made me very grateful, not just for being able to have this experience, because I know we come from a place of privilege to be able to experience something like this, but also I have a better appreciation for the life that we did have. There's a lot of things that we feel like the United States does really well that we miss, as well as appreciating our time here as well and what it has afforded us. Like me being able to go a year without racism alone is reason enough, I think, for anyone who's considering that change to take the leap and give it a try.
Yeah, we had a lot of thoughts prior to moving here about what we thought Costa Rica was going to be like. Many of those thoughts turned out to be accurate, and some of those thoughts turned out to be a little bit off base. Overall, yeah, I'm glad we did this, and I don't know how long we're going to be here, We could be here for 2 more years, 5 more years, 10 more years. Moving abroad in general has just opened up a whole new world to me, and I think Jazz too. It makes living anywhere seem more possible.
Absolutely.
Costa Rica seems like a great starter country for anybody who wants to experience living abroad. It's very U.S. friendly. Well, I think that's it. Thanks for joining us. Like Jazz said earlier in the video, if you haven't seen our first one, you can check it out. We'll link to it in the description. And if you got any questions, comments, or concerns, leave them in the comment section.
Don't forget to like and subscribe as well. And we will see you guys next time.